Y'all pray for Kurupt, man. Because he look bad. He look bad. Kurupt ain't gonna be with us too much longer if he don't get some help real quick.
Long ago, you know, my pancreas, my liver, you know what I'm saying, and my kidneys. It was just all messed up.
This news was very shocking. So Daz Dillinger posted and he said, God said we shall live and not die. Want to send a big shout out to my big brother, official Kurupt. Get well speedy. Need all fans to send Kurupt a get well message.
Kurupt is currently in the headlines for a serious health scare that has landed him in the hospital, with friends like Daz Dillinger asking for prayers for what is still a mystery illness.
Kurupt has actually been hospitalized after battling some serious health issues, and the report does not get into what the health issues are, but they mentioned that he's been in the hospital for those weeks.
But even with how serious the situation is, this is not the first time Kurupt has been in a life-threatening situation. This was the same Kurupt that had a deadly run-in with Timothy McGee, the so-called Monster of Atwater, a clash that took the life of Kurupt's bodyguard at the time, Dwayne Draws Dupree. Let's dive in. On January 12, 2026, news spread that Kurupt, one half of the dog pound, was in critical condition, fighting for his life. Early reports were vague and didn't give a clear diagnosis, but it was clear the situation was serious. Almost instantly, fans and fellow artists flood social media with messages of love, support, and hope. Daz Dillinger, Kurupt's longtime partner, took it especially hard. He stayed on Instagram, posting old photos of Kurupt and urging everyone to pray hard for him.
This news was very shocking. So Daz Dillinger posted and he said, God said we shall live and not die. Want to send a big shout out to my big brother, official Kurupt. Get well speedy. Need all fans to send.
If you have CalFresh, Medi-Cal, or SSI, you may qualify for a free iPhone 11, plus up to 10 gigabytes of data every month.
To send Kurupt a get well message flooded.
In one of his posts, Daz brought up legends they'd already lost, like Nate Dogg and their cousin Joe. That hit people deep and made the situation feel even heavier. It was clear this wasn't just a minor scare, especially since Kurupt had already been hospitalized for weeks by that point. As the days went on, updates slowly started to sound more hopeful. The latest word is that Kurupt is on the mend and showing signs of improvement. Still, the concern hasn't faded. Fans know his history, and they know how close things have gotten before. This moment didn't come out of nowhere. And the truth is, this isn't Kurupt's first brush with something this serious. To really understand what's happening now, you have to rewind the clock back to September 2019, when another major health scare nearly took his life. Back then, Kurupt showed up on Marriage Boot Camp, hip-hop edition, with his girlfriend at the time, Tony Calvert, hoping the show could help them patch things up. But honestly, the relationship was already on shaky ground. There were non-stop issues around his drinking, plus rumors that he'd been cheating, and all of that baggage followed them straight into the house.
And we came to Marriage Boot Camp to try and get it together. You know, we got a couple bumps in the road and things like that. And, you know, we figured that we'll come here and give it a try.
With the beer and the hard, and that's like your sixth one. Like, you can't slow down. Like, you've had more than a whole full one already.
No.
Yes, you have.
To make things worse, the environment wasn't exactly set up for success. The house was stocked with alcohol. One night, things spiraled completely out of control. Kurupt drank way too much, pushed his body past the limit, and ended up collapsing. It got so serious that he had to be rushed to the hospital. Because of that episode, he missed 2 full days of filming while trying to recover and get back on his feet. The situation shook everyone involved. It was a real wake-up call for the producers, who realized they'd created a dangerous setup. After that incident, alcohol was banned from the house for the rest of the season, and there were even talks about making that rule permanent going forward. But that night was just one piece of a much bigger problem. The fallout didn't start there, and it definitely didn't end there either. Over the years, Kurupt has been honest about the battles he's been fighting behind the scenes. At one point, things got so bad that he suffered back-to-back seizures and ended up hospitalized in Utah. Doctors didn't waste time trying to figure out the cause. After running tests, they tied it directly to years of heavy drinking. His body had taken a serious hit. His liver was damaged. His kidneys were struggling. His pancreas was messed up. Pretty much everything was under stress.
Not too long ago, my pancreas, my liver, and my kidneys. It was just all messed up.
The doctors told him if he didn't make major changes, the next shutdown could be fatal. Still, even after hearing that, Kurupt kept pushing himself. He continued showing up to shows, getting on stage, and performing through pain, sometimes bent over just trying to make it through the set. What makes it even heavier is that this addiction didn't just appear overnight. According to Kurupt, it goes all the way back to when he was 24 years old. He traces the start to a moment sitting at a table with Tupac Shakur. Pac put a bottle of Hennessy on the table, and from that moment, drinking became part of his everyday life.
24 on, when Pac brought that Hennessy to the table. Once he brought the Hennessy, it was over. Oh, it was over. Got that Hennessy, and that's what changed the game.
Kurupt has talked about how deep it got. He'd wake up and need a shot and a beer just to feel normal. He drank while watching TV, while playing boxing games, while passing time. The liquor became something he leaned on to get through the day. To really understand how things spiraled this far, though, you have to rewind even further and look at where Kurupt's story truly began. Ricardo Emmanuel Brown was born on November 23, 1972, in Philadelphia. He was raised in a strict religious household where faith came first. His mother was deeply involved in the church and spent a lot of time at the Cathedral of Faith, making sure Ricardo was always there with her. She later became a pharmacist, but no matter how busy she got, she stayed locked in on keeping her son grounded and close to God. Outside of church, though, Philadelphia in the 1980s was a different world. The streets were tough, and day-to-day life was about survival. By the time Ricardo was 15, he had started running with a crowd that made his mother nervous. She could see where things were headed, and it scared her. Worried that her son might not make it out alive if he stayed, she made a painful decision. She sent him across the country to California to live with his father in Hawthorne, hoping distance would save him. His father lived a completely different kind of life. He worked as an electrician for Bell Atlantic and believed in routine, discipline, and always having a stable plan to fall back on. To him, success meant steady work and staying out of trouble. But Ricardo didn't connect with that path at all. Music had already taken hold of him, and that was where his focus stayed. When he turned 18, he left Hawthorne and moved into the Crenshaw district. That move dropped him right into Rollins 60s neighborhood Crips territory. The environment was intense and unforgiving. He was suddenly surrounded by violence, loss, and street politics, and those experiences reshaped how he saw the world. He was suddenly surrounded by violence, loss, and street politics, and those experiences reshaped how he saw the world. Even before Crenshaw, he had already learned how serious the streets could be. At 17, he had an encounter he never forgot. A 9-year-old kid riding a bike rolled up to him and told him to take off his all-blue Nikes. When he refused, a 13-year-old stepped in and threatened to go home, grab a gun, and come back to shoot him. He could tell the threat wasn't empty. Knowing his life was on the line, he took the shoes off and handed them over. Kurupt survived life.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation
In the 60s and became part of it. He earned a name as the neighborhood MC, always ready to rap, going bar for bar until he ran out of breath. But the real break came in 1991 at the Roxy Theater. Kurupt was only 19, a Philly kid with a West Coast edge, when a woman challenged Snoop Doggy Dogg's crew to a rap battle. Kurupt stepped up and started tearing through everyone. Snoop, who was already gaining buzz, had to jump in himself. The two battled for nearly 20 minutes, neither one backing down. Kurupt was raw and aggressive, while Snoop stayed smooth and laid back. When it was over, they shook hands. Snoop told him straight up that if he ever made it, he'd come back for Kurupt. And he did.
Snoop was the influence all the way around. As I grew up, when I was young, that was one thing, but once Snoop came into my life, he really shaped the man.
After Snoop blew up with Deep Cover alongside Dr. Dre, He brought Kurupt to a house party and introduced him to Dre. Kurupt grabbed the mic, freestyled, and won over the room. By 1992, he was part of Death Row Records from the very beginning. He showed up on the Chronic and Snoop's Doggy Style, helping shape that new West Coast sound. Teaming up with Daz Dillinger, he formed Tha Dog Pound, a duo that became a big part of the G-Funk era. Their debut album Dog Food dropped in 1995 and exploded, selling nearly 300,000 copies in its first week and landing at #1 on the Billboard 200.
60% stripping, 40% bull. Industry shady.
Still, the album almost didn't come out on time. Activists like C. Dolores Tucker attacked it for promoting violence and misogyny, which caused a 3-month delay. By 1996, Death Row was pulling in around $100 million a year, but things behind the scenes were falling apart. Violence was rising, and Suge Knight was pushing artists to go after the East Coast. When Tupac joined the label, the tension only grew. Kurupt and Daz dropped New York, New York with Snoop Dogg, and the video showed them knocking down skyscrapers like Godzilla. New York didn't take that lightly. While filming the video in Manhattan, their trailer was shot up. No one was hit, but the warning was clear. That chaos followed Kurupt into his darkest period, a time he later called a solemn low state. By 1999, he wasn't just dealing with music pressure, but real danger. The peak of that era came on October 17, 1999 at Echo Sound Studio in Atwater Village. Kurupt was locked in, finishing his second solo album, Tha Streets Is a Mutha. Around 11:40 that night, the session ended, and the crew stepped outside onto the patio to catch some air, unaware that the night was about to take a serious turn. In that group that night was Daz Dillinger, a few close affiliates, and Kurupt's head of security, a 23-year-old street figure named Dwayne Draws Dupree. Draws was well known in the streets, and also happened to be the younger brother of Eugene Big U Henley Jr., one of the top leaders of the Rollin' 60s neighborhood Crips. As they stood outside on the quiet street, out of nowhere, two shadowy figures stepped out of the darkness. Seconds later, gunfire exploded. Multiple rounds ripped through the air, fired from semi-automatic rifles, believed to be AK-47s. There was no warning and no time to react. Kurupt and Daz instantly hit the ground, diving behind heavy concrete planters as bullets smashed into the pavement around them. Chunks of concrete flew inches from their faces. Somehow, they survived, but not everyone walked away. Javon "The Realist" Jones was shot in the foot. Willard "Act a Fool" Givers took a bullet to the calf. And then there was Draws. The man whose job was to protect everyone else took multiple shots to the chest. He collapsed right there on the studio patio and died on the scene.
He was killed by a guy named Timothy Joseph McGee, aka the Monster of Atwater. Draws was the bodyguard for Kurupt at the time, and he was shot and killed in 1999 outside a music studio in LA.
Almost immediately, both the streets and the media started pointing fingers at a diss record, calling out names. On the track, Kurupt went all in, calling out DMX, Ja Rule, and Irv Gotti by name. The beef with DMX was exceptionally personal. Kurupt had been engaged to Foxy Brown since 1997, and by 1999, rumors were flying that she was cheating on him with DMX, her label mate. Kurupt claimed Foxy even passed along the idea for a song meant for him to DMX instead. So when calling out names dropped, it was exactly about how he felt. Kurupt even went as far as threatening DMX if he ever came to the West Coast. For years, people believed the Echo Sound shooting was retaliation from Rough Riders or The Firm over those lyrics.
DMX?
Yeah, they tried to blame DMX back then. Yeah, because they say the shooters allegedly, their first story was they came through on the bikes, so they was thinking some Rough Rider stuff, but...
That story stuck for a long time, but the truth was much darker and had nothing to do with hip-hop at all. The real shooter was Timothy Joseph McGee, a man the LAPD later labeled the Monster of Atwater Village. McGee was a Scottish-Mexican leader.
Did you lose a lot of money sports betting on DraftKings or FanDuel? You may qualify for up to 70
leader of the Toonerville Reefa 13 gang, known for extreme violence. According to police, he killed without remorse and felt a rush from it. He treated Atwater Village like his personal war zone, using police scanners and radios to monitor who came in and out. To McGee, a group of black men hanging outside his studio late at night on what he considered his turf was enough reason to open fire. This was far beyond rap. It was about territory and racial hatred. What happened was a brutal collision of two street powers, Black Crip influence and Latino Sereno control, with Kurupt caught in the path of a real-life predator. While Kurupt was dealing with the trauma of losing his bodyguard and the constant threat of violence, his money situation was quietly falling apart, and the damage wasn't coming from the streets. It was coming from inside death row. The man who claimed he had saved Kurupt from the streets, Suge Knight, was also pulling the rug out from under him. Behind the flashy death row image was a mess of bad deals and shady moves. Back in 1990, when Kurupt was still underage, he had signed with managers Lamont and Ken Brumfield. They gave him a place to stay and covered his expenses after he was put out of his family home. But when death row entered the picture in 1992, Suge Knight allegedly promised Kurupt fame and fortune if he turned on the Brumfields and broke his contract. The legal mess that followed stayed mostly out of public view for years. Then, in December 2000, a Los Angeles Superior Court finally ruled on it. The jury found that Suge Knight and Death Row had defrauded Kurupt's former managers. The punishment was around $4.34 million in compensatory damages and another $10 million in punitive damages. To protect himself from the growing lawsuits, Kurupt had already been pushed into bankruptcy back in 1996. That move wiped out his contracts and left the Brumfields with nothing, despite Kurupt appearing on 17 albums, signing with Tharo and Conflict within Dog Pound. Just when it looked like Kurupt had finally shaken off the death row curse, he made a move nobody saw coming. In 2002, not long after Suge Knight was released from prison, Kurupt re-signed with the label, now rebranded as Tharo. Suge sweetened the deal with a reported $3 million offer and a vice president title.
When Suge got out, we had a healthy conversation, and he offered me a position, and I took the position. It's something I wanted to do at that time. I really didn't feel like, I think I was over rapping.
On the surface, it looked ordinary. Behind the scenes though, it was a chess move. Suge was trying to break apart the Dog Pound gangsta clique from the inside. The fallout was immediate and loud. The West Coast was stunned. Daz Dillinger and Snoop Dogg felt blindsided and took it as the ultimate betrayal. What had once been brotherhood turned into open warfare. Daz jumped in the booth and fired shots with records like You Ain't Shit, while Snoop publicly clowned Tharo, calling it a dysfunctional family. Kurupt didn't stay quiet either. He answered back with the album Originals, featuring the brutal diss track Eat It, Daz. For nearly 3 years, one of the strongest alliances in West Coast rap history was torn apart, largely fueled by Suge Knight's manipulation and old power games. Around the same time, another major chapter of Kurupt's career was stuck in limbo. Back in 1996, he had formed a supergroup called the HRSMN with Raz Kass, Killah Priest, and Cannabis. On paper, it was a dream lineup. 4 elite lyricists representing the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: pestilence, war, famine, and death. Fans were hyped, but the music never fully arrived. The project became one of the most delayed albums hip-hop had ever seen. Contract issues, label politics, and Kurupt's ongoing legal battles with Death Row kept the group frozen in place for more than 2 decades. Over the years, the Horsemen teased fans with loose tracks and unfinished white label releases, but the full vision never materialized. Each member faced their own struggles, from legal problems to incarceration, and the group slowly became a myth. It wasn't until 2021, over 20 years later, that they finally released The Last Ride, giving fans long overdue closure. Despite all the chaos, setbacks, and recent troubling news, Kurupt's legacy remains solid. As the neighborhood MC, his influence runs deep. Kendrick Lamar has openly named Kurupt as one of his 3 biggest influences, saying his own style is a blend of Kurupt, Tupac, and Ice Cube. Eminem also gave him his flowers on Till I Collapse, listing Kurupt among the greatest rappers of all time, right next to Biggie, Nas, and Jay-Z. Kurupt helped reshape the West Coast sound, bringing a sharp, Philly-born lyrical edge into the G-Funk era. His pen played a real role in pushing Death Row Records to its $100 million a year peak. Beyond music, he branched into acting, showing up in films like Hollywood Homicide and Johnson Family Vacation. He even stepped into executive roles, trying to guide others away from the same streets that nearly took his life. No matter what's happening now, Kurupt's mark on hip-hop is permanent. His story is painful, but his impact is undeniable.
Switch to TurboTax and file your own taxes free in the app if you didn't file with us last year. Just file with TurboTax